Hey everybody, it's Josh Runquist here for Heavy Debriefings, and we're down to the last two segments of this 34-part series. So, no more dilly-dally, the top 10 albums of 2021. Oh boy, we're starting off controversial, aren't we? At number 10, it is the sophomore album from Sleep Token, This Place Will Be Your Tomb. And let me just get this out of the way. No, I have not retroactively put this album on my list. It was on my list back in 2021. You just never checked it out, and assuming that I just checked them out over the last 6 months. I have not. I knew about them back in 2021. And at first, when I first heard of them, I thought that they were a death doom band. I mean, with an album title like This Place Will Be Your Tomb, that screams funeral doom. That screams death doom to me. That's not what this is. It is alternative metal, progressive metal, indie pop, and a fusion of many other styles combined. And I really don't understand the lore of the vessels and all the stuff that they're trying to do. Like, if Ghost is like basic common math, Sleep Token, when trying to understand their story, is a bit more like calculus. And I never took calculus because I'm not that good at math, so I'm not dealing with that. All I know is I enjoy the music off of this album. Like the first track off the album, Atlantic, I feel is one of their best songs. And they have other great moments throughout this entire thing. And it's just amazing to me because they were just starting to get a little bit popular with this album. And then, like 6 months ago, they just absolutely exploded. Not like that fart that happened a few months ago, but they exploded. And now they're like media darlings now. And all I can say is bravo. While I do have my thoughts about the brand new album, which I feel is fine. Like, there's a couple songs I like off the new album, but it's not something that's gonna make my top 100 at the end of the year. It's just not gonna. There's so many other bands that are worthy of that spot, in my humblest of opinion. But there are a few good songs off of it. Whereas this particular album, I enjoy the whole thing from start to finish. Even when it goes into territory I'm not usually a fan of, the indie pop stuff, I feel it works really well in context. And if you want to give Sleep Token a chance, maybe not start with the new one where that is just so controversial and people are, up their own ass with their own opinions, thinking about how much they suck or how much they're the greatest band on earth. Neither of those are true. So why don't you go back an album and see for yourself if this is something that you would enjoy. And then later on down the road, when the hype kind of dies down for the new album and the touring starts up, see if this is something that'd be up your alley. Coming in at number 9 is Lantlos with Wilderhund. And if you like Sleep Token, if you're interested in Sleep Token, any of those things, I recommend that you actually check out Lantlos. While they're a little bit different than what you would expect, I really feel like this is a band that you could also really enjoy because they take a lot of heavy moments and they're able to contrive it into a different way, much like Sleep Token does when they blur the lines of genres. So does Lantlos. Like, they started off as like a pure, raw, atmospheric black metal band, and then they became much more about like post-rock, post-metal, shoegaze, very abstract ideas going along as well. And it all combines together, especially with Wild Hund, as an album that just flows together seamlessly. All the songs fit together so very, very well. The songs are catchy, the songs are beautiful. They can be dark, but they're also so pretty at the same time. It's a more positive band in metal. So in a way, it's kind of a yin-yang situation where I feel like Lantlos and Sleep Token, while being very different, they do have very similar vibes together. And if you're checking out that Sleep Token because everyone's checking it out and having their opinions on it, why don't you check out a band like Lantlos? Because you might find something to really appreciate here. And check out their previous album as well too, which might be their best album, but unfortunately did not make the list at the time. But Wild Hunt, just fantastic stuff. Coming in at number 8 is Lockvostok with Opus Ferox, The Great Escape. Now, it's funny how this is, of course, the latest album from Lockvostok, but it's also a new beginning for the band. as main vocalist Teddy Moeller decided to stop doing his clean vocals on this album. I remember him saying that he really got sick of his clean vocals, which I disagree with. I love his vocals, as I talked about with the album From These Waters. But they decided to bring in new singer Jonas Radhorn to be able to do the clean vocals, and I feel like he does a phenomenal job with it. I still miss Teddy's cleans, but I really like what Jonas brings to the table here. Now, this album isn't nearly as extreme as the extreme progressive metal as they used to do before. I mean, there's still really crazy moments that occasionally happen, and of course it's filled with all that prog goodness, but I wouldn't call it the extreme progressive metal that I did before. It's more prog metal than it and a little bit of progressive death metal, but really more of just a prog album. And I do appreciate that. The songs are very consistent, they're a lot of fun to listen to, especially if you're a musician, just hearing what the entire band is capable of. Just such an underrated band, and seeing the new chapter of this band has me very excited. If this is what they're doing with new clean vocals, what is the next album gonna sound like? I can't wait. At number 7 is Rivers of Nile with The Work. And this album actually dropped a few spaces, as this was my number 2 or 3 on the original list. And it fell down to number 7 just because I started to appreciate some other albums a bit more. That's not a knock at this album whatsoever, as I do feel it is their second best album behind Where Owls Know My Name, but it is very close together. I love everything about this album, the experimentation that they do on this album. Even though they use less saxophone, they also use it more proficiently as well, and it still has that great progressive metal, progressive death metal, technical death metal aspects that I love about the band. It is a cold, dead album in the best way possible. And it does close out their 4-album saga of seasons and metaphors that go along with that. And of course, it's a new chapter of the band as well coming forward, as some lineup changes have happened, and I'm very curious to see where the band's going to be going from here. But The Work is a fantastic album, and if you want something a bit more on the experimental side of progressive death metal and tech death, you need to check this album out. Up at number 6 is the sophomore album from Light the Torch, or 4th album of this band, depending on how you look at it, with Devil You Know. I already talked about that the first time I talked about Light the Torch. Go check that out. This is You Will Be the Death of Me. And everything that they were able to accomplish on Revival, they done 100-fold on this album. The songs are even catchier. There's even more clean vocals. I don't even remember if there's a single scream or growl on this entire thing. Howard Jones is just doing his magnificent clean vocals, and he's one of the best. He has such power behind his vocals, and it's just incredible to hear. And hearing it in this more lighter setting compared to what he was used to do, like in Blood Has Been Shed and Killswitch Engage and Devil You Know, it's great to see Light the Torch taking a very different approach. It's super melodic, super catchy, heavy in all the right spots, and a very cool cover at the end if you check it out all the way at the end. Yeah, I just love this album. It's the closest thing that I listen to modern melodic metalcore. Mainly it's because of Howard Jones and how magnificent of a vocalist he is, but you might enjoy it as well too. Drop any preconceived notions and check this album out. Up next is Swallow the Sun with their latest album, Moonflowers. And the main thing to take away from this album was, Miko said that he wanted this to be the saddest Swallow the Sun album ever. And that is quite the feat to be able to try to accomplish, as every single one of their albums is just devastating. In different ways, but they're all devastating with love, loss, life, death, everything that goes into Swallow the Sun. On this album, it hits a little bit different because it combines all of those things. It also contains broken relationships, it also contains mental health struggles, it also contains so many things that were hinted at the past but fully explored on Moonflowers. And I know it actually took a toll on the band, especially Miko, who had some issues after he recorded the album. I think he's doing better now. I mean, obviously being able to tour and everything is able to help with that, but, you know, it's just like when you put in some of the darkest lyrics that you can think of, it's gonna come back at you in some way. but it's also a very cathartic thing at the same time. Another thing that really helps this album stand out is the three-piece string trio that accompanies most of the album. In fact, there's even a small EP where they have just the string sections of this album. So you should go check that out as well too if you want to hear doom metal without the doom metal and just on strings. It hits just as hard, maybe even harder. But yeah, Moonflowers is the saddest Swallow the Sun album, and all it takes is just one listen to understand why. Coming in at number 4 is Zornheim with their sophomore album, The Zornheim Sleep Experiment. And this takes everything about their debut album and just be able to expand upon it in the best ways possible. Whereas the first album was more of like an overview of the whole character story that goes on throughout this asylum, this starts to pick apart details about what's going on, and you're able to appreciate things a little bit more with how deep it really goes into things. I just love this album from start to finish. I love musically what's going on. I love the risks that they start to take. There's more clean vocals than the first album. There's more experimentation than the first album. The concept goes deeper, which I love the story, and I love the overall theme of what Zornheim is all about. This is fantastic, underrated stuff. And it shouldn't be underrated anymore. It should be rated normally as some fantastic, symphonic black and death metal. And if this sounds like it could be something up your alley, if you like symphonic black metal, if you like black and death metal, if you like those great clean choruses over extreme music, you need to check out Zornheim. It's amazing work. And all you have to do is just check it out to understand why. Coming in at number 3 is Bloody Hammers with Songs of Unspeakable Terror. I love this album so much I actually have the physical vinyl version hanging up on my wall. I love this album. And much like I talked about Bloody Hammers before, especially once they hit a certain stride, they learn that they can do different styles and be able to incorporate different things that go along with it. Sometimes it goes a little more metal, sometimes it goes a little more punk, sometimes it goes a little more goth, but it's always that great horror-tinged Bloody Hammers, quirky, grindhouse, campy fun that I love so much. And with this particular album, it is the punk album. This song is short, sweet, everything that you would want in Bloody Hammers, just with a little bit of that punk vibe. No song goes on too long. It just hits everything perfectly. It is a fun album. If you love that campy horror mixed in with your gothic metal, your horror punk, heavy metal, all of that stuff. And plus, Anders Manga is just an amazing songwriter and vocalist. If you've never checked him out before, and you like things a little bit more on the punk side with your heavier music, you should check this album out. Coming in at number 2 is Unto Others with Strength, which is either the sophomore album for the band or the debut album from the band, depending on how you want to look at it, as they were formerly known as Idle Hands, but they had to change their name due to it already being copywritten. So look at it however you want to. It's still the same music, but fantastic stuff. I discovered this band in December of 2021, and had I discovered them any sooner, they would have been an immediate top 10 on the top 100 list at the time. But unfortunately, that was not the case. It was when I was all done with everything I discovered these guys, and I wish I had discovered them sooner. This band absolutely rules. If you combine the cult and typo negative and some power metal moments, you get Unto Others. Gothic metal, heavy metal, speed metal, a little bit campy fun as well too at times. I mean, you hear a song like Destiny and you hear the eagle scream in there. How can you not think of Peacemaker? At least I do. James Gunn, you should really put that in the season 2 of Peacemaker. That's all I'm saying. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But Unto Others is just a great, fun, gothic band. This is what gothic bands should strive for. Like, they write about some serious stuff on here, but all the songs are fun to listen to, which is hard to be able to pull off the seriousness and the fun at the same time. Unto Others does it amazingly. And they're able to tour with so many different kinds of bands too. Like, I saw that they were touring with Napalm Death last year. That's absolutely bonkers when you think about it. But they're able to adapt to so many great situations. I can't wait to be able to see them live at some point. And if you've never checked out Unto Others, do yourself a favor. Get the strength to go check this album out. Sorry for the pun, I just had to do that. And finally, my favorite album of 2021 is of course Panopticon with their latest album, And Again Into the Light. This is what I dub North American folk metal because it is that great combination of North American folk, Americana, country, bluegrass, and black metal, which sounds so strange on paper, but Austin knows how to make this work. And especially on this album, although he was really hinting at it with particular songs on the previous double disc album, which is too long to say the name of off the top of my head, it really starts to incorporate more of the post-rock feeling on this album, which I really appreciate. It feels very cinematic, it feels very soundtracky, but when you combine that with the North American folk metal, it is just an award-winning combination in my eyes. It brings tears to my eyes. I love it so much just musically, let alone going into it lyrically. The particular song, The Embers at Dawn, is my favorite Panopticon song. I feel it is one of the greatest black metal songs ever written, and even though half of the song is building up and it has that post-rock element, when it finally reaches its apex, it goes pure black metal for the rest of the song, and even if you don't like black metal, you will love how this all builds up together, and you can see how the genres mesh together so very well. I can't wait to see what Panopticon does next. I mean, they always do like splits and singles and compilations and stuff like that, which I love, but I'm always going to love when they do LPs, and I can't wait to see what's next. And there you go, folks, my top 10 albums of 2021. What do you think? Did you make any discoveries? Do you agree with the list? Do you disagree? Do you want to hate on me for my own personal opinion? All those thoughts and more, leave them in the comments down below. And of course, like, comment, share, subscribe. Let people know about the series, let people know about this channel. As this was the penultimate part of this entire series, next week, of course, comes the final chapter, the top 10 albums of 2022. I can't believe I covered my whole life in 340 albums. It's just absolutely insane to me. 330 done, 10 more to go. And then I turn 35. What will happen then? Well, life will let me know. But until then, I hope you continue to follow this channel, check out the other videos, and until the top 10 albums of 2022 closing out this series, or another top 10 video that I make, interview, review, or any other type of video that I make here on the Heavy Debriefings YouTube channel. For Heavy Debriefings, Josh Runquist saying, see ya.